around that pass around the outside going into turn one that Lyondike did on him last year, because he repeated that on Scott Brayton.
You know, it's been fascinating to watch Brayton, too, again in the yellow 59 car, because his line here has been so unusual. Look at Nigel Mansell, though, as he ducks under John Paul Jr. Faster chases, and there's Michael.
An interesting thing about Brayton, with Mario withdrawing from the race, Brayton becomes the most experienced driver in this race. He's run more Indy 500s than anyone else, 13.
Well, based on the line he's been following, I'd say he has a good chance of saving that car and having it fresh and ready to run at the end.
I think Scott Brayton is a guy that has really learned how to drive this race. He had bad luck the last couple of years, but I think he was ready for a major success, and maybe it's going to happen today.
You know, Sam and Paul, even though the racetrack might be a little bit slippery in the groove right now, I've been noticing down here there really is no dust like on the outside, which is making it real nice for passing.
Nigel Mansell trying to close on Ray Hall. We mentioned that Dick Simon as an owner has 6 cars in this race. Let's consider what they are doing here today. In 9th, Bosel. Masuda runs in 11th. Vitolo, despite his spin, is 23rd. Mashushta, 24th. Lynn St. James, she had a lot of trouble in the pits. She's 26th. Marco Greco, 27th.
Bobby, have you noticed, too, that Mansell seems to be going through traffic a lot easier than Little Al, who was catching him, but Little Al doesn't seem to have as easy of time getting through the traffic, even with that Mercedes power.
Well, Danny, I've watched them all slow down. Their speeds are down around 210. Little Al's a little less than that. I think that this is that deal in the middle of the race where everybody's doing a lot of thinking, kind of a dead time for the drivers, because they're trying to figure out for what they're going to do later. I'm sure you can remember thinking and doing the same things.
Oh, absolutely. At this time of the race, you're trying to, what calls am I going to make? Do I need to put some wing in it, take some wing out? What set of tires? Do I want more stagger? And just try to get through the traffic as best as I possibly can.
You know, the personality of race drivers also is that Emma goes fast all the time. He's just like a switch, on and off, whereas Little Al's going to do a little bit more thinking, I think.
Well,
Ray Hall makes a turn for the pit area. So Ray Hall coming in now. You're on the nose of the car. Now let's take you back while Bobby Rahal makes a stop. We'll continue to track this, let you know if anything changes. Let's go back to lap to 23. And this is the situation that developed in the pits that brought out a black flag for 2 competitors, Cheever and Mansell. Car 5 is the key. Raul Boisel as he comes out. Now you see the blend line just down below the car. There comes Mansell.
You can watch him correct with the steering there. The rear wheel that's spinning like that.
And there's Cheever. So Mansell and Cheever after the blend line. Now what they should have done was gotten back behind Bosel. They didn't do it. And so the black flag came out for both of them.
Frustrating for both, because Bosel pitted so far to the end of the pits, was barely up to speed when they arrived. They would, both of them, have had to brake hard to avoid passing Bosel.
Well, they could, but if they had corrected themselves, Sam, they probably wouldn't have made the call. They don't expect you to lock them up, but if they had slowed down, let Bosel go back in front of them, they probably would have not made that call.
Once they were on the track, that's an option, correct?
On the track or even in the pit lane.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of a difference would it have made for a guy like Nigel Mansell, who now runs in 3rd? Could he have been the leader of the race as he tries to overhaul Dennis Vitolo here? Not a battle for position. Let's go down to the pits once again.
Paul, strolling the pits is Leo Mel, the director of competition for Goodyear. Leo, we talked early about the fact that it was going to be a hot day, that there might be concerns over tire temperatures. What have your preliminary readings been on these early stops?
Well, the Penske team scrubbed in the tires very carefully last week. Ran them one day, let them rest, ran them the next day, and it's all paying off because everything looks great so far.
No blisters, no trouble areas showing up?
The Eagles are just perfect so far.
All right, well, here's a happy man. Of course, he's still got half a race yet to go, Paul.
Mansell really working the traffic. You notice drafting everybody. Little Al is now coming into the pits.
Al Unser Jr. in 2nd place.
And the big question, Paul,
routine, Jack.
And the big question is, will he stall it this time? We'll keep you abreast.
Waiting for the leader to come come in as well, Emerson Fittipaldi. Scott Brayton is also in the pits, and Emerson Fittipaldi is on the pit road.
He kept the revs up a lot higher, Paul, than it was 14.8 as Emerson Fittipaldi comes in. Now, neither of the team cars are anticipating making any major changes. That bodes well. They seem to be pleased with the fuel consumption as well. Right now, it's just a simple stroll in the park.
Jack, when you talk about changes, of course, we're seeing them change tires. You mean changes to the handling of the car via the wings and the chassis.
That's right, Sam. There have been no wicker bill adjustments, no wing adjustments, etc.
So the leader is first and second in and out of the pits. And that time in and out smoothly, as there's Fittipaldi.
I'd like to say one thing, too, to Jack. Being a driver, even when the cars are great, there's never a stroll in the park. There's always a problem. The handling is always a factor. You're always trying to adjust. You've all got little problems that you're dealing with constantly throughout that drive.
The thing that's fascinating, Paul, right now, and Danny alluded to it, is Emerson has complained just a little bit throughout the course of the race about understeer, but when they offer to try and fix it, he says, no, leave it the way it is.
Well, Jack, that could be. Don't forget, they run through an entire tank of gas. That thing holds 40 gallons. So at the beginning, he might have more understeer, or the car might be more neutral. He might not want to change it because it'll upset the balance at a different part of the run, and he might be happy enough because he's just out there, as you say, in the lead.
Coming up Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports, our country's top gymnasts, including Dominique Dawes, take on China and Belarus in the Hilton Gymnastic Challenge. Plus, the Advil Mini Marathon from New York City, Saturday at 4:30, 3:30 Central on ABC's Wide World of Sports. A crash, Bobby?
Crash down in turn one.
One car.
One car, that's all
there is.
there
Against the wall, down to the inside. The crews are already there. The rest of the field slows. There is some debris up on the track. Masuda. Hidesi Masuda, the first rookie to qualify, first car to go out in qualification.
I just happened to be looking up, Paul, at the track as this happened. It looked like he just lost the rear end coming off, spun, hit the wall. Doesn't look like it was all that bad.
The blimp spirit overhead with that shot. There's the replay. Lost it coming off at turn one, slammed the wall, and then just slid down to the inside.
But again, look at all that trash that flies off the track around there. We got to watch for flat tires from the other cars. That's the biggest fear that they have.
Bobby, how much trash is down in that area as we look at another replay of this accident?
Really doesn't look that bad.
Guys, sorry to interrupt you. We got another one up here in turn 3. We have another accident in turn 3.
This is an accident after the yellow?
Yes. They're down here. It might have been that debris that we're talking about. He might have lost a tire.
And that's John Paul Jr.
There's a flat tire that you can see. Most likely. That doesn't mean it was caused by the debris, but Danny's probably right. They run over debris. They have a flat tire that go in the next turn, and wowee, the car just takes off.
Well, Bobby, that's exactly why I asked you, because it, and look at this.
Paul Tracy.
Smoke out of the Mercedes of Paul Tracy.
Now, Tracy was back in 13th place. He was not probably positioned to win the race. But this could be the first weakness shown by the Mercedes program.
All right, let's go back. We'll keep track of Tracy. Here is the car 45, the John Paul situation. Boy, lost it way early. That almost definitely confirms that Danny saw. What's this? What's this?
There's Nigel Mansell under. Unbelievable.
Nigel Mansell and Dennis Vitolo. Why? How did they get to this point? An unbelievable
After the
situation.
Yellow.
What is going?
The yellow light's been on for several laps. This is on the pit road.
But interesting that Mansell and I think Al Jr. were the first guys through. The accident. Maybe they picked up a puncture too.
Yeah.
Nigel Mansell decides to get out because there was fire on the back of the car, and
remember, this is methanol that's burning, and you can't see it.
Sam, that's oil that's burning right there, not methanol, and you could see it. It's right underneath the engine there.
Yeah, but what about Mansell? One of the firemen saw something and went to just totally envelop Mansell. Maybe he thought that Mansell was on fire or saw some of those flames that we can't see from methanol.
Bobby, I saw the oil fire, but then so suddenly Mansell seemed to leap forward as if something else. That's why I suppose that maybe the methanol had ignited.
That's because everybody is screaming fire. He wasn't in a hurry until everybody started screaming. And he also knows the methanol fires are almost invisible, Sam.
Well, but Bobby, he is on the ground.
Bobby,
it's
it
not
also
an easy
could have
climb
been,
out.
It could have been, too, if his radiator was punctured. Don't forget that'll take time till it seeps into the back of the cockpit, and he could have all of a sudden got the hot water.
Which feels like
through.
fire, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe burns worse.
It's not very often we see one car on top of the other. This is really a terrible looking possible accident there.
On the warm-up lane, and we still have no idea how these two cars, Vitolo and Mansell, got there well after the yellow. Let's get an update from Gary in the Mansell pit.
I'll tell you, Paul, this team is devastated down here because they were elated when that initial yellow came out. They were going back on the lead lap. They were right back in the race. Then suddenly, lengthily after the yellow, here's the problem for Mansell. They have ridden the roller coaster right to the bottom of the pit right now.
Well, Gary, remember, the Newman-Haas team has never managed to win Indy, and they've been competitive year after year since they started in 1983.
I'm worried about Nigel Mansell. He is in great discomfort there. Nigel and Jacques Villeneuve were both about to make up a lap, taking advantage of the yellow that came out. And then this happened, and we still don't have a clear understanding of why it happened.
I think obviously, Paul, that he got hurt in the accident. He was just sitting there for a while hoping that somebody come help him out, and then he either felt that hot water that Danny was talking about, or somebody was hollering fire. Boy, he got out no matter how much pain he had.
Bobby, your heart just goes out to Nigel, who's been hurt so often in racing one way or another. That bad accident at Phoenix last year, which he bravely overcame to finish third here in this race, and now this.
Well, let's take a look at Nigel Mansell's in-car. Maybe that'll give us an idea of what happened here. The yellow light is on. Emergency equipment is on the track. First time we're all seeing it.
This is turn one.
And he suddenly hit. And we're waiting. That was the camera going out.
There's
the
nothing wrong with the set.
Stopped. We're still watching the tape because there is where the camera comes back. And he gets hit from behind. That's what it looks like. We'll still ride with this videotape from Nigel Mansell's camera. Mansell's still sitting there. Go ahead, Danny.
His head's laid over a little bit to the left. I don't understand that.
Yeah, could he be dazed? Here's the smoke.
Fire starting in the back of the car.
That's the oil smoke.
It's from Dennis Bartolo's car, though, I believe. There's a little oil dripping down. You could see that. That's why it was burning with the yellow flame.
Nigel takes off the steering wheel so that he can get out.
Now he's slow. See, I think the water or something came through there, and all of a sudden he realized he was getting burned.
There's the water.
Out, the water's spitting out. That's from the radiator, I believe, of either his car or somebody else's.
Also from the fire extinguishers. Here's Michael Andretti's onboard camera. Maybe we can get a view from this camera, the same situation. No, that's really John Paul Jr. That was John Paul Jr., the first spin under the yellow.
Now that's one that you would just have to say that was a tire puncture because the car just went out of control immediately. Not the driver's fault.
Because the amazing part, Bobby, is that nobody's really going fast. I've never seen so many accidents, severe accidents, under a yellow.
Danny,
you
it's like...
remember, the rear end is one solid axle from right to left. If you have a tire goes flat, the other one keeps driving the car. There's the other accident right there.
All right, let's review what's happened here at Indianapolis. Masuda had an accident. They turned on the yellow light. Apparently, John Paul Jr. drove through the debris of the accident, and straight away later, he had an accident. And then during that yellow, Nigel Mansell was hit from behind by Dennis Vitolo, or apparently hit from behind. So we are still under yellow here at Indianapolis as we approach the halfway point, our 100 laps of the Indianapolis 500 with Mercedes-Benz 1 and 2.